So, good morning, all of you. Myself, Jagdish, Assistant Professor, Department of Pharmaceutics. So, today now I am going to discuss about the topic of types of biosensors. So, first we have to see what is the definition of biosensors. So, whenever you can going to utilize any kind of the molecules, so blood type or any kind of the molecules which will related to the biological products, it will be utilized for analysis of your any kind of the products and tracing of molecules. So these kind of the products we can call it as biosensors. So based on your application and based on the material used on your biosensors, it will be subdivided into so many types. So this we are having the discussion on this classes. So first we will have the types of biosensors. The first type we are going to discuss about the electrochemical. So based on the ionic variations. So whenever you are going to make the identification regarding molecules or materials, the main content will be on ionic variations. So based on the ionic variations, you are going to identify the molecules. So for the purpose of this kind of identification, what are the sensors you are going to utilize? This we can call it as electrochemical sensors. And second one, amperometric. So whenever you are going to make the identification of current flow. So whenever any two objects, you are going to measure the flow of the current and which kind of the current it has to be transferred from one area to another area. So by identification and to detect the current flow, we are going to use the sensors. This type of sensors we can call it as amperometrical sensors. And the third one, we are having the blood glucose type of sensors. So whenever you are going to identify and determine the blood glucose level in the patients and neutralize the blood glucose level in the diabetic patients. So this kind of the usage you are going to be utilize the sensors. This sensors we will call it as blood glucose. This is also one type of the sensors. And the fourth one is potentiometric sensors. So whenever you are going to utilize the identification of molecules with a dependent on ionic selective base. So ion selective base, you are going to make the identification of the molecules. So whenever you are going to identify the molecules on ion selective basis, either it can be anionic basis or cationic basis. Like this, we are going to make the detect molecules. So this kind of the sensors, what we are going to utilize means potentiometric. By using the potentiometric sensors only, we are going to detect the ion selective electrodes. Next type of biosensors we will call it as conductometric sensors. So whenever you are going to utilize any altering ion changes is going to be happening on any biological reactions or any chemical reactions. So altering of ions or molecules, substitute ions can be replace the reactions and fulfill the reactions. So these kind of the sensors and this kind of the reactions you are going to identify by utilizing the conductometric sensors. And the next type is thermometric. So whenever you are going to utilize the generation of heat by making any kind of the chemical reactions or biological reactions to identify and to calculate the generation of the heat material with the help of the thermometric sensors. Next one, optical biosensors. Whenever you are going to utilize the optical measurements like potentiometry or calorimetry, this kind of the measurements you are going to measure by utilizing the sensors. What are the sensors means? Optical biosensors. Whenever you can measure the optical measurements, by seeing the optical sensors we can measure the measurements with the help of this biosensors. Next one, fiber optic lactase. So whenever you are going to identify oxidation reaction, so oxygen input in fluorescent dye, whenever you are going to identify the oxygen content and oxygen impact you have to measure on fluorescent dye reactions. So this kind of the reactions you are going to identify and you are going to measure with the help of fiber optic lattice biosensors. And the next one, optical biosensors for blood glucose level. So whenever you can utilize biosensors with the help of identification of blood glucose level in humans, this kind of the sensors you are going to be utilized. So nowadays widely they are utilizing this sensors, and this will be worked on the basis of cellulose materials which will be located on the blood level. So this is easily identified what is the glucose level can be present on your blood, and it is identified what is the your blood sugar level. And the next one and the last one is piezoelectric biosensors. Whenever you are going to utilize the help of identification of the molecules with the sound vibrations. Each and every molecule on the universe is having their own vibrations and own frequency. Based on the sound vibrations and sound frequency, you are going to utilize and you are going to identify the molecules. So whenever you have to be utilized, the sound vibration can be utilized as a molecule identification. So what is the sensors you are going to utilize means piezoelectric sensors. These sensors will be identify the molecules on the basis of sound and vibration which is having on their own frequency. So each and every molecule is having their individual frequency and they having exposing the frequency on that particular range. So based on the range only we are going to identify. The best example we are having the UV range will be 200 to 400 nanometers. Like that each and every molecule is having their own frequency. That frequency they are going to be make their own sound vibrations. Based on these vibrations you are going to identify what kind of the molecules will be present on that your sound vibrations. For that purpose we are going to utilize piezoelectric biosensors. So these are the major types of biosensors can be available on the market. So based on the application and based on the material you are going to utilize on your sensors, it is going to identify. You have to check each and every separate reactions and each and every individual identification. They have to separate identification of biosensors can be available. So electrodes they are going to utilize one type of sensors, and identification of the molecules they are going to utilize one type of sensor, and generation of the heat measurement and flow of the current measurement they have to utilize some different types of biosensors can be available. So these sensors will be utilized for making the different kind of application. This we will have to make a discussion on next classes. Fine.